Chains rattle broken, now we rise. Flag in my hand, stars burn the skies. Truth ain't dead, though the liars try. They scream loud, but the words all die. Guys watching hands, praise to the throne. Freedom ain't free, blood built this home. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Red, white, blue, we bleed to survive. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Land of the free, ain't bending the knee. Truth in my veins, it's all I see. Patriots roar, no fear in the fight. Continue freedom, stand in the light.
And welcome back to Continue Freedom. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's a brand new year. It's the first live stream of 2026. Fantastic. I'm loving it. This channel grew a lot last year. I shared in my last live stream how much we've grown. We tripled in size in the last little bit once I got let out of YouTube jail. So I'm very excited. Thank you guys for coming back. If you're new, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, you saw from the thumbnail, we're going to talk about the Maduro situation and the people pulling blocker for him. But if you are new, hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is released. Sometimes. A lot of people say they aren't getting notifications. All right, so let's talk about this. Well, actually, before we get into Maduro, I do have a Candace clip I have to bring up that I found quite rich. And this one was posted by, Cinema Shogun, but either way, it's from her show. You're going to find this rich. This is very rich. Here, check this out.
I want to say this also. History books, they're not going to be fair to me. I think we know that. When I am long gone from this earth, the history books are not going to tell the truth about the things that I did. They're not going to tell the truth about my contributions. But I want to be clear that I want to be remembered as the person who was holding the internet back. Last year, I was in earnest holding the internet back. Everyone was coming at Turning Point USA, at all these allegations. And I was like, no, chill, just give them some time. Everybody.
So now she's playing the hero, which I found absolutely hysterical. I had to share that with you guys. I know some of my regulars are going to enjoy that. She said, no, I was the lady who's been bringing up all this nonsense against TPUSA is now playing the victim. But her, along with Tucker and other people, they're coming down hard on Donald Trump because he took out Nicolas Maduro, and honestly, I had mixed emotions about this. I'm one of the people who was I was pretty critical whenever he went into, when we bombed Iran, the nuclear facilities, because I was a product of the 20-year war, the last one that we were in. And I thought, oh my goodness, is this actually what's going to happen? Are we going to, here we are, the guy who says he's not going to get us into war, then he goes and bombs a major Middle Eastern power. The same people who have been fueling all of the terrorists that we were fighting. Whenever I was in the service, they were the ones that were fueling Taliban. Jaish al-Mahdi, whoever it was we were fighting. They were getting their munitions from Iran, EFPs from Iran, all these things from Iran. And then here we go. He pops in, and the amount of time it takes to watch one episode of Landman or one episode of Continue Freedom. He goes in and he takes out the president of Venezuela. Now, let me play this real quick. This is a comparison. So actually, before we get to that one, let me play this one first. This is Tucker Carlson's argument. Aside from the people saying that we're going to get into another lengthy conflict, never mind that it's Venezuela, not necessarily a major world power, if we're being honest with ourselves. Listen to what he says. This is Tucker Carlson's take on this. It's an utterly foolish take, in my opinion, but you guys be the judge of it. Let's talk about it.
Democracy as a reason for affecting regime change in Venezuela. We're not going to go kill Nicolas Maduro because we don't like the way he's treating his people. It's possible we're mad that he doesn't allow gay marriage. That is a distinct possibility, but no one will say that out loud. Not defending the regime, just saying one of the most conservative countries in North or South or Central America.
He was waiting on his teleprompter there, by the way.
Only El Salvador really comes close.
Those hesitations come
which is much smaller, of course. And by the way, the U.S.-backed opposition leader who would take Maduro's place if he were taken out, is, of course, pretty eager to get gay marriage in Venezuela. So to those of you who thought this whole project was globo homo, not crazy, actually.
Why are we trying to install this woman? It makes no sense.
Well, because she'll bring gay marriage to Venezuela, and that's important.
He's making so many assumptions. This is what drives me nuts. Hey, Real KC, Benjamin, I'm seeing you guys down in the comments. And if you're new here, by the way, feel free, if you're new here, to load up the chat, right? We'll get to the chats here in a little while. But Tucker is making a lot of assumptions here. First off, that it has something to do with globo homo, as they call it, which is the, globalizing the LGBTQ movement, everywhere. Well, that's a pretty bold assumption. And do we think that Donald Trump is going to be the person who's going to spearhead something like that? No, absolutely not. He's also assuming that the current vice president, is going to be the one that they quote unquote install. Now, that vice president, by all accounts, and there's several people who have reported on this. Stephen Miller has talked about it. They've said that and Marco Rubio has said several things about this, that she's playing ball with them behind closed doors, but in front of the world and on the world stage, she is saying, no, I'm not playing ball with them. But behind the scenes, again, she is. Does that mean she's going to be the person that they install? No, it also doesn't mean that. Third, we also have to consider that Nicolas Maduro, by 50 nations, including the United States, across the globe, and la-di-da-di everybody up until 30 seconds ago, recognized that he was not the legitimate president of Venezuela because it was widely known he stole that last election. He was, however, indicted here in the United States, had charges against him in the United States. Donald Trump, look, we're not going to say that they're going to kind of pull cover. That's what they're doing by saying that this is a law enforcement operation. It's technically not. This is, though, about exerting our power in this hemisphere, something that a lot of people on the right are adamantly opposed to. And again, I say this as a person, I'm not a total isolationist, but I think we have to pick and choose our battles. Do I think that the one in Venezuela is one worth fighting? I.e. taking Maduro out? Yeah, I kind of do, because, if you look at Russia, China, Iran, the people that have all this interest in our hemisphere, this is Monroe Doctrine 101. We have our area of influence, our sphere of influence, and we don't want these foreign powers having influence there. We don't need Russia, landing nuclear bombers, or we don't need them. We don't need another Cuban Missile Crisis is what we don't need. So do I think that Donald Trump made the right move? Yeah, I do now. Now, the question is, however, are we going to, when we go into this regime change, it's something we are historically terrible at doing. I don't like regime change. I've spoken out against regime change, but it's the die has been cast, and how this goes from here is something that we have to judge Donald Trump and his administration on very harshly, I believe. And look, we can't even say that that Venezuela didn't have problems. This is Tucker Carlson tries to make this a social thing. People have been going through starvation. People have lost businesses. They have lost their investments. They've lost everything. 8 million people have fled. Between a quarter and a third of their population has fled, a lot of which to the United States. And along with that came Tren de Aragua. It came the gang element that has been plaguing our streets. Maduro plays footsie with them. He's played footsie with the cartels. There's so much in that country, and not to mention, yes, the oil. I got it, the oil, and I have to say I kind of respect Donald Trump for at least saying it out loud and not masking it from the American people. He says, yeah, we're going to take the oil. Like, we want the oil. And we're going to make Venezuela rich because they have more oil. They have the largest oil reserves, the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Larger than any of the Middle Eastern countries. When you look at a place like Qatar with 500,000 people or 400,000 people in it, and they're able to dish out billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. They gave $6 billion. It's a drop in the bucket for them to put $6 billion into the universities here in the United States. Venezuela dwarfs them. So on so many levels, it is strategically important. And some unsuspecting people have actually been supporting this. It's fascinating. Ana Navarro, who I believe is, I don't know if she's Venezuelan or not. I think she is. But listen to this, of The View. I found myself agreeing with people that I would never agree with.
The people in South Florida, the Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years, when we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability. It brought me to tears. It brought me great joy. And, you know, I live in South Florida.
But are you okay with the way that it was done?
But you can, I think both things can be true.
Okay.
I think you can criticize and ask questions and have concerns about the way it was done and what this means in the future.
Right.
And I think you can still celebrate that this murderous, corrupt, sadistic son of a bitch is out of Venezuela.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he has... I think there's 8 million Venezuelan exiles all over the world. People have fled from this man's tyrannical rule. So for me, your question...
You know, and we've watched him. Look, this is socialism 101. It's communism 101. This is what happens 100% of the time. And the left used to say that, oh, you know, Venezuela is a prime example of, you know, a successful socialist government, which is ludicrous. People eating dogs and losing, you know, the average Venezuelan, I think one year had lost something like 40 pounds, some ridiculous amount, because socialism comes into play. When socialism comes into play, you get, you know, Chavez or you get Maduro walking down the streets saying, take that business, take that business. Who owns this one? Take that one, take this one. It's theft. And this is one of the biggest arguments, obviously, against socialism, is that it is immoral to steal from people, even if you vote to steal from people. The Venezuelan people, I've criticized them heavily because they voted for this. Now, once they got it, like a typical socialist or a communist, they don't let go of power, and that's what Maduro did. He stole the last election. Everybody recognized that it was a fraudulent election. He's a criminal. He's an illegitimate president. Donald Trump arrested the guy, which is within his powers to do. Now, let's listen to Stephen Miller, because he you know, think what you want about Stephen Miller. He kind of rubs people a lot of different ways. But here's a segment of him with Jake Tapper, and he did a really good job. I want you guys to see this one. This is it's impressive, as Stephen Miller often is.
Over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Stephen.
Make any sense.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her, and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious. It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me. If you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States. This is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do?
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even know,
engaging these
honestly, what you're talking about right now.
Well, Barack Obama, as one example, but I want to talk about it real quick. He mentioned regime change in places, when we talk about Syria, you talk about Iraq, Afghanistan, they were utter failures. It was atrocious how that went down. However, these were undeveloped countries for a long time before they found themselves we found ourselves in a situation to do regime change. These were underdeveloped countries or under dictatorships. It has not been that long since Venezuela was a prosperous country. It really hasn't been that long. So you still have a generation of people there who know what it's like to run an actually democratic society, not one that is run by a socialist dictator. So there is difference in a lot of these places. When we went into Afghanistan and said that we were going to turn it into, the whole country into some glowing democracy, that was a stupid way to look at it. And I can speak from experience. That doesn't fit the culture. That doesn't fit the driving religion in that country or / ideology. It just doesn't work. Venezuela is a very different machine. Now, I don't like how he didn't answer when they talked about the elections. They said, are you going to have elections for this? Well, he sidestepped because this is going to be the installation of someone that they think can, A, pull the power of or maintain a working relationship with the current government, with the security forces that are there, with the, all the military or the national police, whatever it happens to be. They've got to find the right person, and they're going to put that person in there. That's where it always gets dicey. When we say, here's your new president, that's problematic.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has been made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
Okay, I saw some of you guys hitting it up in the comments. He needed to, real KC, you said that he needed to answer the question, and you were 100% right. In fact, I'm going to bring that up so everybody can see. Yes, he needed to answer the question. We answered the question when we said, we're gonna take advantage of the oil reserves. Okay, that's a pretty bold statement to make, because that was the chief criticism of the U.S. military. We're always going in here and we're taking the oil and we're taking the oil. We didn't get a drop of oil from Iraq, not a drop. That's in the hands of Islamic extremists now. We lost thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of civilian lives, and we didn't get the oil. Trump says, well, I'm going to take out the president. We're going to secure that place. We're going to make sure we keep China and Russia out, and we're going to take advantage of the oil. That's a pretty straightforward answer. And when they start saying, like to your point, Casey, when they start saying, hey, he's not answering the question. Yeah, it worries me when it's addressed like that. But I also agree with you, Benjamin, that yes, I love Stephen Miller. The guy is so quick. He's in the right job. Yeah. Okay. So in fact, I'm going to play. That's what I'm going to play next. Ben, you're ahead of me, man. You are ahead of me, Ben. I'm going to play some Marco Rubio clips, and it's important to listen for. Some of these are a lot of these are Trump people, but we're also going to listen to what the left used to say. It's fascinating that the left was condemning him. In fact, the $25 million bounty that I think was raised to $50 million, I may have read recently, but the Biden administration had put a $25 million bounty, a reward on Maduro's head. They knew he was an illegitimate president. They knew he was a drug dealer. They knew that he was a dictator. So let's listen to some Marco Rubio. This is great. Let's see here. Some of this is it might be repeating it, but I just pulled a ton of clips.
I watch these experts, and it's clown hour. Okay, these are people that have focused their entire career on the Middle East or some other part of the world because that's where all the action was. Very few of them know anything about Venezuela or the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America. Okay? These are Western countries with long traditions among their at a people-to-people and cultural level and ties to the United States. So there's nothing like that. So I think people need to stop ascribing the apples and oranges here, the apples of the Middle East to the oranges of the Western Hemisphere.
But do you...
Number two, this is about the national interest of the United States. And what I'm confident of is we are in a safer and better place because we're taking it seriously. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted drug trafficker, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue. The alternative would have been to allow a drug trafficker to continue to use national territory and elements of nation-state power to further drug trafficking organizations. Read the indictment. This guy used the levers of their security apparatus not to arrest drug traffickers, but to cooperate and facilitate the trafficking of drugs for the purpose of getting them into the United States. That's going to stop. Number one,
I mean, and we have to admit, we have to be perfectly honest that, yeah, Venezuela is not the largest trafficker of drugs. They aren't. You know, fentanyl is the primary problem. My understanding is that cocaine is the predominant drug export from Venezuela. Is cocaine as deadly? No, but it does get mixed with fentanyl. It gets cut with fentanyl by a lot of these drug dealers. It's part of the larger problem. But along with that, it's also strategically important to the United States. So I get that. Now, here's another clip we're going to play. Well, I saw, honestly, Haley, you said that you got in late, but you're here in time for the Marco clips. So there you go. Yeah. Let's listen to this piece here.
Okay, this was, in essence, at its core, a law enforcement function. Okay, the Department of Justice, dating back in the Biden administration, that had a $25 million reward for his capture. So we have a reward for his capture, but we're not going to enforce it. That's the difference between President Trump and everybody else. It's easy to make a wanted poster and say $50 million for the capture of Maduro, but no one takes that seriously because you're not going to do anything about it. President Trump did something about it.
Let me ask
you. He did something about it. We went in, we grabbed him, he was arrested, and he's now in New York. No Americans were killed, no equipment was lost. It had to be done, and it's been done. And I assure you, the people left behind in Venezuela now that are in charge of the police and everything else, I assure you, they're going to probably be a lot more compliant than Maduro was as a result of this.
You know, I have to applaud when I saw the footage of this. That I'm kind of getting a little off track here, but I think it's important. This is something they had been planning most certainly for an extended period of time because the assets that went in, I'm assuming it was either SEALs or it was ODA. I don't know who went in, but they sent in, some SF element, some special forces element, along with over 100 aircraft. They had the 160th SOAR. They had, all of these resources and all these assets at their disposal. They coordinated all of that. They deconflicted all of that. They were able to take out anti-aircraft. They were able to, so it's called suppression of enemy air defense. They were doing a whole SEAD mission. This is some serious stuff. And to do it in the amount of time that they did, as quickly as they did, as accurately as they did, it took human intelligence on the ground. It took all this stuff to come together. And they said, hey guys, the weather's right, execute. And the plan was, by all accounts, flawless. I mean, kudos. I mean, the military, look, I love my military people. I love my brothers and sisters in arms. And they are the best war fighters in the world. But to pull off something like that, I stand in awe at it because I know the planning that went into that one. Anyway, that was a quick sidestep there. Let's listen to some Democrats. We've been listening to Republicans. You guys have heard the right side of this, both literally and figuratively. But let's listen to some of the Democrats, what the Democrats have said in the past. Let's pull up, here's everybody's favorite press secretary. Here we go.
Quickly turn to Venezuela, where Maduro once again demonstrated his complete disregard for democratic norms and proceeded with his illegitimate inauguration. As President Biden emphasized during his meeting with President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia on Monday, January 6, we believe that it is essential that the will of the Venezuelan people is respected. In coordination with our partners, we've given Maduro and his representatives every opportunity to restore democracy, but they haven't. So today we are building on all of our previous actions and taking further major actions. We announced new sanctions on key Maduro-aligned officials as a part of our efforts to hold them accountable, and we imposed more visa restrictions totaling nearly 2,000 individuals. We also increased the reward amount to $25 million for Nicolas Maduro and his so-called Minister of Interior as part of the Department of State's Narcotics Rewards program.
No. He's the legitimate president of Venezuela, is what we're hearing now. Right? It's interesting that all of a sudden, when it's Donald Trump that does it, does the thing that Joe Biden couldn't do, all of a sudden he's a legitimate president. You know, and the problems in Venezuela are our fault.
The policies that we have put in place has kind of helped lead the devastation in Venezuela. And we've sort of set the stage for where we are arriving today. This particular bullying and the use of sanctions to eventually intervene and make regime change really does not help the people of countries like Venezuela, and it certainly does not help, and it's not in the interest of the United States.
I find this hysterical that the downfall of Venezuela, over 100,000% inflation, people losing their jobs, massive poverty rates from a country that has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, and that's precisely what people like Ilhan Omar want for the rest of the world. Socialists are, that's how you know it's all about power. It's how I know it's all about power. That you can see the devastation that is wreaked, that is just, you put your boot heel on the populace of a people, and it's like they get their jollies off on that. They love it. They're like, yes, more of that. That needs to be a global thing. How in the world do people come to that conclusion? These socialists blow my mind. And to be so arrogant as to say, well, let's use a test bed as the most prosperous country, the most oil-rich country in South America, they couldn't hold it together for 2 decades? Yet we're going to do it here in America? Are you out of your mind? And yet, and people in New York voted for it. They voted for Zorhan Mamdani. Yeah, I know. Ben, I see your comment there. This chick's voice annoys me. She drives me crazy. Oh yeah. All right. Let's play a couple more here because it's just entertaining. Let's see. I think this was just last year, if I remember correctly. Here we go. And I'm highlighting this to show the hypocrisy. You guys know it, but it's good that we reinforce it with ourselves just to remember who we're actually up against.
It's a decade, Nicolas Maduro, the brutal dictator of Venezuela, has presided over a stunning collapse of the Venezuelan economy that has caused nearly 8 million Venezuelans to leave that country, most of which destined for the United States. Part of the reason why we saw 10,000 people showing up at the border every day last year, a number that the United States just can't handle with current resources because of the meltdown of the Venezuelan economy. And so it's no surprise that in the election that was held this week, Maduro clearly lost. The briefings that I've received today suggest that Maduro not only lost, he probably lost in a landslide and is attempting as we speak to steal the election.
So here we go. Democrats saying election stolen. Now they're going as far as to pull blocker and say, well, it's just a little cocaine, right? This is how they changed their tune. It was an illegitimate election, whatever.
Clearly, this is wildly illegal. This is a president who has been operating
illegally since he was sworn into office, stealing from the American people, seizing spending power.
Talking about Donald Trump.
Now dragging America into a war overseas. The president cannot run a military operation of this size, cannot invade a foreign country without coming to Congress first, without allowing the American public to weigh in. America doesn't want this war. Nobody asked for this because it has nothing to do with American national security. And I think that's the most important conversation to have.
And it wouldn't be that for globalists, by the way. Globalists like these people, it's not in our national security interest. No. We shouldn't even have borders. I don't know why we're talking about Venezuela. Everybody should just get their pick of the litter. Move to whatever country you want to. Yeah, there's no borders, border free.
Listen, Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans to attack the United States. To the extent that you care about the drug trade, yes, they produce drugs, but those drugs go to Europe. Fentanyl is the drug that's killing Americans. That's not coming from Venezuela. Venezuela produces cocaine. 90% of it is not coming to the United States.
It's just a little cocaine, guys. I mean, come on. I'm sure that he's. I shouldn't. Oh, that would be defaming, I guess. That could be. I was going to say he's in D.C. Do we think maybe he might have sampled some of the goods a little bit? I know there's a reputation up there. I shouldn't put that on him, but nonetheless, other people are saying that this is exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a war, and some people on the right say the same thing. Here we go. Candace, got to give her 2 cents. There we go. Venezuela has been liberated like Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq were liberated. The CIA has staged another hostile takeover of a country at the behest of a globalist psychopaths. That's what's happening always, everywhere. Zionists. Oh, you knew it was going to happen. She couldn't avoid it. She couldn't hold back. As soon as Donald Trump takes out a criminal in another country, you know who it is. It's those J people. It's those J people. That's it. It's all the Zionists. That's what it is. My goodness. Now, to be honest, as I said before, I support Donald Trump in doing this for a couple of reasons. One is he's proven that he gained a lot of my faith and confidence after bombing the nuclear facilities in Iran without getting us into a greater conflict. And that's with somebody who really wants to have a conflict with us. Donald Trump's conflict was not with Venezuela itself. It was with one individual who was a criminal inside the United States and who is going to stand trial in the United States, a guy who has been trafficking drugs to the United States and is responsible for the death of American citizens because of drugs, undoubtedly. So do I think that's okay? Yes. And that this guy was an illegitimate president. The criticism is probably going to come in the future. I want to be optimistic, but I don't want to hold my breath. You know what I mean? You guys tell me what you think. Do you think that that we're going to be able to do the first ever successful regime change in a place like Venezuela? I don't know. I know MTG says that this is getting us into another war. MTG, Tucker, Candace, they're talking about war. Let's be perfectly honest. Venezuela, we ain't going to war with Venezuela. The closest person that we could get into an additional conflict with, I think, is Cuba, because there were, I believe, 30, I didn't pull up the numbers before this show, but I believe there were 30 security guards for Maduro who were also taken out during this strike. And that this is, my understanding, is because Maduro couldn't even trust his own soldiers. That's how popular the president was. But here we go.
We're absolutely sick and tired of. That was part of what they voted for in 2024. They voted to tear down the system that protects the rich, powerful elites. They voted to tear down the system that consistently goes for foreign wars and regime change. They voted to tear down the system that does nothing for regular, hardworking Americans and only consistently props up the big banks, the military-industrial complex, and the oil executives, and major industries. And, you want to know something? After this regime change in Venezuela, I fear that we're going to see jobs just move south, because we're already hearing about big corporations lining up their trips to Venezuela for the next big business opportunity that exists, while Americans sit here with no options that are going to provide them with good paying jobs and affordable health care.
Let's talk about what actually drives a monster chunk of our economy. And you guys know this, but so many people don't. The price of oil does. I don't want to say we get our hands on it, but if Venezuela is able to provide us with cheap oil, the people that we hurt are people like Iran, people that are our adversaries, that are our enemies, Iran, Russia, China. Those people are the ones that are hurt when we've got access to trillions of barrels of oil in another country. That helps our economy, because the price of oil dictates the price of just about everything else. So to say this isn't going to eventually help the American people is just, it's nonsense. It doesn't make any economic sense to say that us having access to it. And that's not saying that we're taking it from Venezuela. That's saying that we are securing Venezuela. Venezuela can start producing oil, and that oil being in our hemisphere is going to be cheaper for us. We don't have to go to some of these other places to get it. It's kind of a win-win, in my opinion. But I will go back to it. Can we actually do a successful regime change? Or we can't cut the Venezuelan people out of it. That does fly in the face of what we actually want to do, or what we actually voted for, what I voted for. Okay, I've got two more things, and then I'm going to hit comments. This is Dan Bongino. If you guys didn't hear, Dan Bongino is coming back. Boy, I would love to know your all's opinion about Dan Bongino quitting. First off, do you think that, are you pissed at Dan Bongino? Are you okay with him leaving? Is he still in your good graces? This is what I really want to know. Because the online, it's kind of a wash. It goes hard, one way and hard the other, which is either Dan Bongino's a traitor, he got in there and he didn't get the Epstein list released, therefore none of the work that he actually did counts. Other people say he got in there and he tried, but he just wasn't as successful as we had hoped he'd be. But I'm glad he's coming back to his show, and I look forward to watching. I mean, that's kind of the two ends of the spectrum, and I would love to get your all's take on this. But he's declared war on the black pillars, and he's talking about the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens and the Nick Fuenteses and all these people that have more or less turned on MAGA, because he's still MAGA through and through. And he's saying that, they're trying to hijack this movement, which I tend to agree with. I think they're just trying to break it apart. It's not they're hijacking it. It's they want to divide it so that it can't be successful. But what do you guys think about this? His X post was pretty fiery. You need to go check out Dan Bongino's X account and take a peek at it. But he absolutely took them to task. In fact, let me see if I can pull it up. I thought I put the link in here, but I didn't. In fact, let me pull it up here. Dan Bongino, because we do this live. There he is, Dan Bongino. The man, the myth, the legend, all 7.3 million followers. Let's see. Where was it? He sent a follow-up. I don't see the follow-up email. So his first one was, if we blocked you, I guess they went on a blocking rampage on their account. But down here it says, if we blocked you, it's because we care so little about your BS that we deem it not worthy of even seeing. If you're, pissing and whining about it, that means you can't exist without seeing seeing and commenting on ours. You'll need to get over that. We do it because there's nothing black pillars and anti-Trumpers want more than to create division and drama. We're about results, and we'll talk about some of it soon. Love you all, and thanks again. And then he did a follow-up X post, and I can't find that one, and that's the one that actually got the most traffic, I thought. But he took him to task. He really did. And I think rightfully so. He's going to face an uphill battle when he comes back. They've got him in their crosshairs all over the Epstein list. That's almost 100%. of the vitriol is focused on the Epstein list, but they discount, they ignore all the other things that he did. It's not like he had an entirely unsuccessful, career. I say career, 1 year stint, less than 1 year stint. What do you guys think? Let's see. All right. One more thing. And then we are going to get to comments. I said I was going to do 3. I'm only going to do one more. And I just thought this was a good news story. After the Seditious Six posted their video, they're now going to cut Mark Kelly's military pension. So the Pete Hegseth, he came out and he said, all right, you guys posted this seditious video undermining the authority, let me just read some of this. Let's see. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced on Monday that the Pentagon is taking administrative action against Senator Mark Kelly, a former Navy captain, for his role in a late 2025 video in which he and other lawmakers dubbed the Seditious Six called for active duty troops to refuse illegal orders. Hegseth said the Pentagon has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings. Basically, they're going to do a reduction in rank. Now that since he's retired, he's getting a military pension. He's still that's still within their rights to do it. And so they said, therefore, let's see, hang on. 6 weeks ago, Mark Kelly and 5 other members of Congress released a reckless and seditious video that was clearly intended to undermine good order and military discipline. As a retired Navy captain, which is 06 in the Navy, who is still receiving a military pension, Captain Kelly knows he is still accountable to military justice, and the Department of War and the American people expect justice. This is also something I voted for. You can't just go out here and try to create little coups inside of the military without expecting some consequences. And that's what we've been sorely lacking, is consequences. Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, they say there will be consequences, and maybe it'll be, what is it in the Navy? I forget the Navy ranks because they're all weird. Not ensign. Is it ensign? Is that what it is? Why am I forgetting this? Whatever it is, a first lieutenant. Maybe he'll become well, I guess for them, lieutenant is a captain for the Army. So anyway. All right, let's get to comments. My favorite part of the night. Sorry I'm doing this live stream late. For all my regulars, which I've got a lot of my regulars on here, I had work, and I said, all right, I'm doing one anyway, even though it's significantly later. This is a great exchange here. Yo, how's it going, guys? And KC is bursting with fruity flavor. How about you? That's good. Yes, this is what Tucker was saying. This is exactly what he was saying, Ben, is that the globo homo that Tucker talked about, that's why they did it. They did it because Maduro is a social conservative, and he wouldn't allow gay marriage. So naturally, that's why you go and arrest a guy. You take out the illegitimate, I won't say illegitimate. You take out the leader of the country. He's the illegitimate leader of the country. Take him out because he doesn't like gay marriage. You're right. Tucker Carlson is absolutely insane. He's completely flipped. Yep, I think this is right. Back in RC, I think you're absolutely right. This is a move. Now, I saw a recent poll. Granted, it was CNN, and I'll before I get to any more comments, let me see if I can find it because it's worth showing. That this fracture, based on recent polling, is not actually as bad as we tend to think it is. I don't buy it. Oh wait, now that's interesting. Here we go. Let's play this one. In fact, it was on Dan Bongino's page. So here we go. This is about the Maduro situation, but here we go. Listen to this.
In the Republican Party. Yes, there are some folks.
About what the president's done in Venezuela?
Let me be very clear. There is no rift in the Republican Party. Yes, there are some folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie who are quite skeptical of this. They are very much in the minority. What are we talking about here? Well, why don't we just talk the GOP on the U.S. military ousting Maduro? Ipsos, 65% support, 6% opposed. How about the Washington Post poll? 74% support, just 10% opposed. If you look among 2024 Trump supporters, we're talking about 80% support. The vast, vast majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump on this issue. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene are very much in the minority, very few Republicans.
Now, look, we have been and should continue to be skeptical of any poll, regardless of where it comes from, because these things are so highly manipulated. But if this were true, if it is true, I think it's a pretty fascinating statistic that he polls that high in the ousting of Maduro. Most Americans or most Republicans are like, yeah, I'm on board with it. I'm cool with it. You do you there, POTUS. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Hey, good evening to you too. NAB Uncensored. Let's see. I'm glad our news has been as trendy as clothes and home decor. That is a great way to put it, KC. Our news has become as trendy as clothes and home decor. Wow. Okay. I will try to offer a footnote when I use that in the future, because that's a really good one. I like that. It's true. They move with the wind. It's whatever the pollsters say, whatever the DNC tells them. In some cases, whatever the RNC tells them. They change it. That's people that don't have morals and principles. I had a buddy who was an advisor for he was a military advisor for I don't want to say too much. For an elected representative. Let me just put it that way. And he talked about it, that these guys, before they make a single decision, they're like, how's it poll? How will that help me? How will that hurt me in my next election? And that's all they care about. So they'll float one way or the other, but that's not a moral or principled position. Sorry. There you go. Follow the green and you'll find a Soros. That's it. Yeah, okay, that's right. Anna Navarro used to be a Republican. You're the average of the top 5 people that you hang out with. That's one of the old sayings. And I think that the view is 5 people, so it's skewed towards the left. Let's just say the people she's around are skewed towards the left. Let's see. I don't think Venezuela took. Yeah. So I think that I think that the first election. My understanding is the first election was legit. I could be wrong on that one. I'll do some more research. It was universally recognized just a few years ago that the last election was 100% stolen. Let's see, because America is the only one who unfortunately won't do anything about it. We talked about that one. Needs to answer. Yes, Rubio is excellent. There you go. What's the take? Maduro was not the leader. He was a criminal. The framing is so off about this. Very well put. Yep, you're right. Let's see. I thought it was super late. There you go. I don't know if I put this one up before or not. Honestly, Haley. Yeah, like I say, I was late tonight, and then I'm keeping you guys up late. I'll try to be quick. Let's see. And Marco is leaving for job, but doesn't let them. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. A lot of these people do. They get in here, that Stephen Miller is another one of those, but yeah, it's just those projecting voices. Marco Rubio has had an interesting political career. He's glommed on. We have to approach him with the same skepticism as we do anybody who was an old school Republican. And I always do. As long as he is doing what Trump wants him to do, as long as he is following lockstep with what Trump promised the American people, he is one of those politicians that can sway one way or the other. He's somewhat principled, but he could veer off path very sharply. And whenever Trump is out of office, once he is done, and whoever the next president is, if Marco Rubio is still involved in the cabinet, we got to go back to saying, all right, whose side is this guy on? Is he an old school Republican, or is he part of the MAGA movement? So we don't trust them, but we can certainly applaud them when they're doing the right thing. Yeah, we're talking about that. Good point. It was months of planning. Months of planning. talking about the raid on Maduro. Cringe John Mayer. Yeah. Oh yeah, your favorite was Psaki, Jen Psaki. We'll circle back to Jen Psaki. Maybe I could circle back to a clip. Let's see. A baby who requires during the formula storage, give him all the time while spending hours looking for him. Oh wow. Oh, that's crazy. Talking about the cutting the cocaine. Is that what you're talking about? They use the baby formula. Yeah. Let's see. Just can't see. Yeah, so many of these people are, Ben. Like they have moved. Look, I used to. It's weird how I've morphed over the past probably 3 or 4 years. I used to be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I'm kind of like that comedian. I don't know if I could find him. He's hilarious, and he made a joke that you're telling me you don't believe in any conspiracy theories, not one. And he said, that's a strong stance to take. He said, I've only got one kid, and I lie to that dude all the time. But he's basically making the joke that nobody's gonna say that the government's batting 1,000. It never bats 1,000. Of course there are conspiracies. But some people get so wrapped up in the excitement of the conspiracy that they lose grasp with reality or lose a grasp on reality. And that's what Candace Owens has done. Plus, she's got sycophants that are just blowing sunshine up her backside all day long. She can't be wrong. In fact, one of them, though, one of their people, let's see. Let me see if Candace Owens producer, it was really funny. You guys will get a kick out of this. Candace Owens producer tricks her. Owens producer tricks her. It was a clip on. Let's see. I don't think that was it. Maybe I'll see if I can find it for tomorrow. But she was playing a clip that was Charlie Kirk talking about the deep state, Charlie Kirk talking about, corruption and all this stuff in D.C. But then Charlie Kirk in that same clip started saying Donald Trump is the guy who's going to start pushing back against this. And of course, Candace Owens is furious with Donald Trump. So it made Candace Owens look stupid. And then she had to backtrack and say, Charlie would be appalled at what Donald Trump has become. So she started putting words in Charlie Kirk's mouth. It was pretty funny. Let's see. Yeah, you and me both, KC. I've waited for dozens of them. I mean, over the past 3 months, there's supposed to be an awful lot of bombshells. And funny how people will still listen, even though there's nothing produced. Like, she never produces anything. Absolutely nothing. Yet people are still glommed onto the show. I don't know. Sick and tired of. Well, that's just Southern accent. Come on, Ben. I've lost my Southern accent, most of mine. I used to have a thick one. I'm sick and tired of it, That's how my brother still says it. Let's see. So I can't make fun of the Southern accent. Let's see. All right, IDK. There you go. Welcome back. Oh, we're at the comment section. I might be way behind on comments. Whoa, I think I am. Yeah, you guys, this is the long part of it. I ought to put something up so I can, let's see. I really wanted to find that clip because it was so worth it. About Trump. Man alive. Oh, well, backfire. Candace, hidden producer. Oh, here it is. Oh, I found it. This will give me a chance to read through comments.
We obviously have to discuss Fort Huachuca because I now need to turn our attention back now that we've recapped how I'm feeling about the new year. we obviously have to discuss Fort Huachuca because it seems to have driven people insane. Okay? Insane. People are losing their minds ever since we mentioned Fort Huachuca, which signals to everybody that Mitch is telling the truth. Okay? Now, I should tell you that if Charlie were alive today, they'd be calling him demonic. They'd be calling him possessed. They'd be saying that he was crazy for not trusting the government because he was honest. He had an honest perspective about psychological operations. He noticed them. He knew the government was behind these psychological operations, just like the one they have put in place since Charlie was assassinated. Here is what Charlie had to say back in October of 2024 regarding the CIA and MK Ultra. He is speaking with Justice Smith. Take a listen.
Do you think the MK Ultra project ever actually ended?
Was behind these
or just went
No,
under
we
a
have,
new
I
name?
mean, we have no evidence that it ended. And I mean, also we have Operation Mockingbird too, which was another CIA program, which was that they were going to take over all the news networks and have symmetry in their broadcast communications. No, the Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation of people here domestically. And that is completely against the CIA charter. We must understand, we have Congress, and they're just kind of like a peanut gallery. And then we have a super government that exists above Congress of the Department of Defense, which is the Pentagon, the Central Intelligence Agency, which is its own thing out in Langley, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They run the country. The intel agencies run the country.
I agree.
People don't run the country. The executive branch doesn't run the country. This is why they hate Trump, because Trump was the first candidate since JFK to actually want to declare war on the intel agencies and bring the power back to the sovereign. And both him and Kennedy got shot.
Yes, well, I am just in many ways. I think it would just paint.
The executive branch doesn't run the country. This is why they
I'm
hate
sorry, I
Trump.
had to play it over to.
Because Trump was the first candidate since JFK to actually want to declare war on the intel agencies and bring the power back to the sovereign. And both him and Kennedy got shot.
Her producer was obviously supposed to cut that part out. This is, I think I might be docking your pay because you're not supposed to let Charlie Kirk say something good about Donald Trump. So now I got to step in here and put words in Charlie's mouth.
Yes, well, I am just in many ways. I think it would just pain Charlie to see everything that's happened since he passed. I think it would just pain him to see what Trump has become. He's become a deep state, obviously, and never have I ever seen a more aggressive psychological operation or a more obvious operation, for that matter, than everything that the intel agencies have been trying to impart upon the public since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Until, I should say, and relatedly, I saw what happened after we brought up Mitch Snow.
So she's saying that Charlie Kirk wouldn't even recognize Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump's pretty much the same. Donald Trump is pretty much unchanged. In fact, he's a bit bolder than I thought he was going to be when he was in office. He hasn't done everything right. I'm not saying that, but he is a bit bolder than I thought he was going to be in office. So she's trying to backtrack. She's trying to put Charlie, change the framing around what Charlie Kirk said, and then she's going to go back to Mitch Snow as it just proves the guy's legitimate. Like it defies logic. It's entirely nonsensical. Wow. I had to put your comment up, Casey. I put it up before. I'll put it up again. That's good. That's right. We got to be as chatty as possible. Build this channel. I appreciate you guys. Y'all are awesome. And if you're new here and you happen to be on, feel free to smash that subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. It definitely helps the channel. Okay, so I definitely vote for him over JD Vance. Okay, interesting. All right, Marco over JD. Let's see. Marco is definitely not little Marco anymore. I posed the question, if you're new here or if you just hopped on, I posed the question earlier that, do we still trust Marco Rubio? Do we like Marco Rubio? Do we think that, I don't know. I think I posed that question. Maybe I had that question in my head. I've already forgotten the question I asked you guys. Let's see. Oh, you can call me Jared. There you go. I rarely say that. I just get on and start talking, but you guys can call me Jared. Yeah. Con free. That's funny. Oh. Many conspiracy theories are spoiler alerts. Yeah. You know, there are a lot of them that do come true. But that is, again, back to my point. I've gone away from everything is a conspiracy. You know what I mean? I don't know. We'll see. I gotta go. A little bit I gotta go. All right. I think we brought us algorithms so we can, let's see. No, what's up? I get that one a lot, Ben. Not the same. I have no. People say, oh, that used to be, that was funny before all of his problems. That was funny. Oh, Jared, like the guy from Subway. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, guys, we have come upon the hour. I'm going to be back on again tomorrow. So be sure to, again, if you're new, hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. You guys are great. I've got an awesome chat. So if you are new here, this is typical. We've got great folks, and whenever we can get everybody corralled together around some of our bigger videos, it just, the chat goes nuts. And you guys are doing an amazing job tonight. I got to bring up, let's see, who is number one? I think that, KC is number one in the chat tonight. Awesome. Stray Kitten number 2 and Ben Jammin number 3. There we go. You guys are great. You're awesome. Best audience ever. So we'll have some more stuff tomorrow night, guys. And I'm going to be on a separate podcast. It usually starts at 9 p.m. It's called Braver Than the Rest. If you feel like hopping in and checking that one out, feel free to do so. It's usually a good time. But otherwise, you'll catch me tomorrow evening. Should be around 5 or 6 p.m. I wish I could be a little more consistent with that one, but I've got multiple jobs in a small business that I run and all that stuff. So I try to get here right around the, about that 5 or 6 o'clock hour. So God bless you guys. Have a fantastic night. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. God bless.